have two more Microtalks, the first of which will be delivered by economic analyst at the UNDP. Let's welcome Sylvia Sefakor Senu. Sylvia, there she is.
Good morning. Hello. I only have 5 minutes. I'm not going to talk much, but I've been asked to do this micro talk on driving capital or driving private investments to the right places where it is needed most. I'm sure you may all have heard about the SDGs. Your private sector, largely as I understand, because this West Africa Deal Summit is targeting venture capitalists and the like. So in my attempt to show you what the private sector is doing with the SDGs, I pull up this slide and more importantly, showcasing data that has measured how the private sector is treating the SDGs or how the private sector is interacting with the SDGs. So we can all see that there's a mention of private sector in the reports of the SDGs by private sector in their report, annual reporting. But so you have about 72% of private sector reporting the SDGs. When it comes to integrating it into their business strategies, you only have about 25% of it. And when it comes to the targets, we only have 14%. Why do I mention this? I mention this because the SDGs, as they are goals, but they also have indicators and they have targets. And usually, for us to be able to measure and report on how well we are doing with the achievement of it, we may have to go beyond just the goals and look at what the targets are and what the indicators are so we can track. So it's not just enough to stop at the goals, but it would be important to look at how you go about it and how you measure your progress. So when it comes to really looking into the targets, we have far less private sector looking at that. And I wanted to draw attention to that so that as private sector would be looking more closely, not only at the goals, but also at the indicators and then the targets. We all know, and it's been reiterated by previous speakers, the conditions we have now is not looking so good. In 2000, when we had all the millennium goals and blah blah blah, we did well. We didn't have pandemics. By 2015, we brought in the SDGs, and boom, here we are going really back. And I like the fact that you mentioned that the condition is well exacerbated and we need to do far more than we even anticipated. If you look at the financing gaps, is huge. It's moved from 2.5 trillion to about 3.7 trillion. And really, who has the financing? Not government. Indeed, governments were the ones at the table to negotiate and to agree on some of the goals. But we all know, and it has been well said, that to achieve the SDGs, the role of the private sector cannot be underestimated. Okay, so then I move. So what we need is mindset shifts, especially with the private sector. Yes, we understand it's profit. And I like the fact that in this room we are talking about impact investing, because really that's what it means to drive private capital to the right places. Did I move? I didn't move. I moved on my own screen, not on yours. Sorry. Yes. So we are talking about a new normal for private sector. And that new normal is really that we have to do things differently. We have to align. We have to incorporate the SDGs into whatever business, really from planning to implementation to monitoring to everything. So it's not just a mere mention of the SDGs in our report. To be quick. Okay, so what are the offerings that we have at UNDP? So really, we understand the challenge, and we are talking about impact management, really, where we really look at how we can incorporate strategies, how we can incorporate impact, how we can incorporate different tools into our business strategies so that we can really drive impact, or we can really go towards implementing the SDGs. And we also talk about intelligence, impact intelligence. That what we attempt to do is to gather the evidence, bring together, it's really, we pull together a set of tools that helps private sector in their decision making. One of the speakers mentioned, I think it's Jean, mentioned about due diligence, right? Because then you want to know what you are going for. You want to be convinced. So we attempt to draw together all the data sets that helps you make that decision with our SDG investor map. And then we do impact facilitation. Here, a number of things, including convenings with different stakeholders, with private sector to shape policy, but also with intermediaries, so we can direct where the funding can go. So I would like to talk about two of the offerings so I will dwell on one. Amma will come right after me to speak on the other. So the SDG Investor Map, which is one of our impact intelligence tool, is a tool that pulls together local intelligence, looking at government priorities, looking at development needs, and also aligning it to the SDGs. So it pulls together the different sets of interests, okay? And then presents it in a way that helps the private sector see where the opportunities lie and then makes a decision. So basically that funnel is what it's saying is that we sift through the different needs and the different priorities of different stakeholders, including the private sector, to bring together this set of investment opportunity areas where private sector can delve into, pull investment into, and then we can see things change. And somebody mentioned right here that if we do not finance health, for instance, who would? Traditionally, private sector wouldn't think health is sexy, but health is very sexy. And with our SDG Investor Map, we're able to demonstrate that there's a lot of potential and money to be made in the health sector. My time, yeah? So, in fact, the tool has a lot of data, a lot. It stems from it stems from where the opportunity is, all the business cases, the environmental, regulatory issues, everything is pulled together. Who is playing in the system, the kind of SDGs would be impacting and the like, and the kind of people, or whether this would impact people, planet, prosperity and the like. Okay, so luckily, the investor map is not hidden. It is freely available. It's the DPG online. Please go online to the SDG Investor or if you Google SDG Impact UNDP, you would find the SDG Investor Map online. So far, a number of countries have deployed the map, including Ghana, and we are implementing it. Okay, so just this really kind of a summary, but to also say that at the last stage, we also want to engage with enterprises. UNDP is shifting the focus from government interactions to private sector development and engagement. So what it means is that we are working with private sector to incorporate the SDGs. And Amma here is one of our champions when it comes to the SDG Impact Standard, which looks at incorporating the SDGs into management decisions of the enterprises and businesses. So she comes up right after me. Wanted to end on the note that profit plus purpose is equal to impact. So let's not only think profit, let's think impact. Thank you.
Many thanks to the lady who has all the S's, Sylvia Sefakor Senu from the UNDP. And now for the last Microtalk, CEO of Impact Investing Ghana, let's welcome Amma Lartey. Mhm. So back and forward.
Thank you, Kafui. Really great talks from everyone. My mission is very simple. There are businesses in the room, there are investors in the room. You've looked at these opportunities, you're already investing. If you want to embed impact into your work more intentionally, how do you do that? And the SDG Impact Standards are a framework that can allow you to do that. I'm going to skip the part about impact investing Ghana because we've spoken extensively about who we are. Just to say that Impact Investing Ghana began to explore what tools we could provide to businesses and investors in Ghana to help them integrate impact. And we picked the SDG Impact Standards as our first tool because it provided a very clear decision-making framework for businesses and investors in a way that makes sense for who they are. And it wasn't just high-level principles that you can agree to, but it was actionable processes that a business could integrate. It was simple enough to work with for SMEs and robust enough to work for large financial institutions. And it was free. And it came with an assurance framework, which means that after you use it, if you want an external assurer to come and say you're doing well, you can access that and get a seal, the SDG Impact Seal. So it felt like that was a good sort of check to put in place to avoid, I heard a new word today, SDG washing, and ensure that we're actually driving impact. So the SDG Impact Standards, I'll tell you more about it, but it also comes with training and education, including an online course that's absolutely free. UNDP and Duke have created on Coursera a course on impact measurement and management for the SDGs. It's one of the simplest and most excellent courses for private sector on impact measurement and management, a great resource for you to share with any of your team members who is responsible for this, who wants more training. And then there are trainings on the SDG Impact Standards available, 1-day masterclass, 3-day in-depth workshops, and opportunities for people who want to become accredited trainers to also become, especially from the Francophone markets. We are hosting on the sidelines of the Africa Impact Summit in South Africa, together with UNDP, a training for accredited trainers. And there are still spots in the Francophone section. So if you're here and you're interested, or you know someone who should be becoming a master trainer, do let's connect afterwards. So I'm going to skip all these key concepts because of time, just to say that ESG is a term that we're very familiar with in the private sector. And it's good to remember that ESG is a risk management tool. ESG is not about maximizing impact. ESG is a framework to help stakeholders understand how an organization is managing risks related to environmental, social, and governance issues and make appropriate investment decisions. And because of that, the tools it comes with aren't going to help you maximize impact. And there's been a lot in the press in other places recently about ESG and how it's been used. So it's a great thing to do as a company, and you may be required to do it. But what we're asking is that we go beyond ESG to impact, which is really intentionally looking at embedding sustainability into the core of what we do, and that our physical world has limits, and we need to recognize that as businesses. But more than that, we often think of impact as, I have a goal, I want to help X number of women get jobs. I have a business that can employ people, I'll expand it and employ these women. I have impact. So I have my goal and there's an intended impact. But the truth is, we have impact every day. Once you are alive making decisions, you have impact. The decision you make about the type of bottle you will buy, the kind of car you will drive, how often you will fly, every decision you make as a business has impact. Some of those impacts are positive, some are negative, some are direct, some are indirect, some are expected, some are unexpected, some are known by you, and some are unknown. So if we think of impact as something that is happening anyway, then it's something to manage. It's something to manage. And what you want to understand is that you want to increase your positive impact and reduce your negative impact. And the SDG Impact Standard says reducing your negative impact is good enough. If all businesses did was to reduce their negative impact, we will probably achieve the SDGs, because the negative impact of businesses is significant on our environment and on people. Now, this is also not just because we're good people. There's a business case for sustainability and the SDGs to comply with regulations, to reduce your risk, and many other reasons. And just to say that the slides we've shared today will be shared after the conference with all the participants. And so since the angel of death is standing next to me, I will end by saying that we have 4 SDG standards, one for enterprises, both large and small, one for bond issuers, so if you're in the fixed market, one for private equity funds, and one for international development financing. They all can be found freely at sdgimpact.org, and you can also sign up for a training in Ghana if you go to bit.ly/SDG standards. So thank you for your attention, and look forward to being able to support more businesses to integrate sustainability into their work.
Many thanks, Amma, for the final Microtalk. Now we're going to a very exciting plenary session. It's going to be 45 minutes, so 10:30 we will end this. Plenary session on how foundations and development finance can build a pipeline of investment-ready businesses. The speakers, CEO of Scale Up Africa and Global Advisory Board member, Reach for Change, Amma Jampo. We'd like to have you up. Dr. Christian Yan.